Welcome to Iraqi Dinar Hub, where we track the narrative shaping today's global financial conversations. Tonight, our attention is fixed on a major and rapidly developing story that has drawn intense interest from international currency analysts. A powerful storyline is emerging that suggests the global financial landscape may be undergoing a dramatic transformation. What began as subtle mentions across niche discussion channels has grown into a widely circulated topic. At its center is the long-talked-about possibility of a sweeping revaluation involving two specific national currencies, the Iraqi dinar and the Vietnamese dong. According to circulating discussions, if the event is happening as described, it would carry enormous implications for world markets and economic systems. The core message. Behind this expanding narrative is the claim that Iraq and Vietnam, acting in concert and without prior public indication, have launched a major fixed-rate revaluation of their currencies. These claims describe not a minor shift or traditional market float, but a complete recalibration of their monetary value on the global stage. Based on the unverified reports, the scope of the alleged adjustment is massive, defying conventional economic assumptions and forcing observers to rethink established ideas about how national currencies are valued within the modern financial framework. The momentum behind this story is driven by the numerical figures being referenced. These values are, by any normal financial standard, extraordinary. According to the claims, the Iraqi dinar is being assigned a new value of $480 for a single unit. At the same time, the Vietnamese dong is being discussed at a new fixed rate of $249 per unit. It is essential to emphasize that these numbers would represent one of the largest revaluation jumps ever suggested in contemporary economic history. For this reason, the reports are sparking intense conversation and scrutiny among currency watchers. The narrative becomes even more complex due to a reported divide between what the public can see and what is allegedly occurring in restricted financial channels. Followers of the story point out that publicly available currency converters, financial news tickers, and retail foreign exchange displays still show the long-standing familiar values for both currencies. This absence of visible change has created uncertainty and speculation. The broader marketplace offers no official indication that the supposedly historic event has taken place, leading many to question the nature and foundation of the circulating information. In contrast to the unchanged public data, the narrative claims that a very different picture is emerging inside private institutional systems. According to the reports, internal banking screens used within major financial networks have been quietly updated to reflect these dramatic new valuations. This alleged gap where insiders in major banking infrastructures see one set of numbers while the global public sees another has become a central feature of the story. It has fueled speculation that a controlled step-by-step rollout may be in motion. According to these interpretations, the process would begin within the core financial infrastructure before eventually being made public. Analysts who track these subjects are portraying this reported event as a possible turning point, one that could indicate a departure from the current fiat-based model. The circulating narrative suggests this is not merely a revaluation but the beginning of a transition toward a monetary framework tied to real assets. For decades, modern finance has operated primarily on credit systems. The reports imply that certain nations may now be attempting to restore concrete, measurable value to their currencies, indirectly challenging long-established global monetary structures. At the center of this developing storyline is the Central Bank of Iraq. The narrative references a series of high-level, closed-door meetings said to have occurred earlier today in Baghdad. Reports claim these meetings resulted in the final approval and activation of the new fixed rate for the dinar. Those cited within the storyline describe the atmosphere as deeply significant, with national leaders reportedly authorizing what they are calling a new era of economic autonomy for the country, an achievement following years of effort to rebuild and stabilize Iraq's financial foundation. From Iraq's perspective, a revaluation of the scale being suggested would carry symbolic weight far beyond monetary value. After many years marked by sanctions, conflict, and slow reform, such a shift would serve as a bold statement of recovery and sovereignty. According to the reports, establishing one of the world's strongest currencies would represent a powerful milestone for the nation, signaling the end of prolonged instability and demonstrating the culmination of a long process aimed at restoring financial strength and independence. In a parallel development, similar claims are emerging from Southeast Asia regarding Vietnam and its currency, the dong. According to the narrative, Vietnam's government and central banking authorities have undertaken a coordinated recalibration effort. The dong, widely viewed by some analysts as undervalued relative to the nation's expanding economic capabilities, is now being positioned, according to reports, at a valuation that would immediately elevate Vietnam's global economic standing. This alleged move is being interpreted as a deliberate attempt to align the currency's value with the nation's production capacity and natural resources. If the reported revaluation were true, the shift in the dong's worth would have sweeping consequences for Vietnam's position on the world stage. The narrative suggests such a change could propel Vietnam from a primarily manufacturing-driven economy into a powerful financial competitor. The resulting increase in purchasing power would be substantial. Financial commentators quoted in the storyline describe the event as one of the most significant, coordinated currency developments in modern Asian history and potentially indicative of deeper strategic economic alignment between Iraq and Vietnam. Meanwhile, the reports claim major global banks are quietly preparing for these alleged changes. Several Tier 1 international institutions, representing some of the world's most influential banking entities, are said to have received new internal trading instructions and operational codes aligned with the revaluation figures. According to the narrative, these updates are being implemented out of the public eye within the private systems that govern institutional liquidity and foreign exchange pathways. This activity is portrayed as evidence of substantial institutional awareness and readiness. While the general public and retail banking customers are unable to view or access the purported new rates, some reports describe the beginning of a separate process for select individuals. These include private banking clients and long-term holders of the currencies, who are allegedly receiving initial notifications for early redemption. This phase is described as the first step in a broader global transition. Mentions of secure appointments, new digital verification procedures, and designated exchange facilities form part of the narrative surrounding this reported initial rollout. Analysts note that if accurate, these events may represent the first movements toward a long-theorized shift to asset-backed systems. For years, certain economic thinkers have predicted that resource-rich nations, such as Iraq with substantial oil reserves, would eventually move toward currencies backed by physical assets. Under such a system, a nation's currency strength would be tied directly to tangible commodities like gold and oil, instead of floating freely based on speculative markets and policy decisions. If today's circulating reports are correct, this would mark one of the earliest large-scale efforts to reintroduce asset backing into the global monetary system in the modern era. The broader implications would be significant. A transition from debt-based monetary structures to asset-based valuations would fundamentally reshape the existing global economic order. It would shift power toward nations with substantial natural reserves, altering long-standing financial hierarchies, according to proponents of the narrative. The reevaluations represent a natural correction after decades of fiat-driven economics. Despite no official update appearing on public markets, sentiment reports describe notable reactions in related sectors. Observers claim rising trading activity in commodities and digital assets as investors prepare for a possible move toward a new era structured around tangible value. According to certain economists referenced in the storyline, if the reevaluations are introduced into global markets at the rates being reported, the world could experience a redistribution of wealth on a scale not seen since the end of the Bretton Woods system. The sheer magnitude of the valuation shifts would generate immense new capital and could threaten existing debt structures and financial models. This possibility has prompted rapid analysis from financial experts who are attempting to map the potential ripple effects of such dramatic economic developments. On the ground in Baghdad, the situation is described as energized and tense. Locally circulating accounts claim that crowds have begun gathering around major banks and government buildings seeking confirmation. Some of these reports include statements that new, smaller denomination notes have already been printed and are ready for release under the new valuation. If accurate, this would indicate long-term planning rather than an impulsive decision.